North and ScoreNorth.com.
Write that down.
Write this down. Write it down. You like writing things down.
Yeah, Wednesday, Mackey and Judd. Today is the final write that down session of the season and the final accountability session. So get those swings in, get those predictions in. We'll see if Judd can hang on to his prediction batting average lead.
I hope I can.
I'm swinging for home runs only because I can't catch you. So we'll get there. But welcome into the show today. We'll get to write that down in like 20 or 30 minutes or so. But first, he is an NBA insider for The Ringer, a host on The Ringer NBA show and The Restart on The Ringer YouTube channel. And we're pretty confident his sole focus over the last 6 months has been just Timberwolves basketball. Kevin O'Connor, thanks for jumping in on it. We coined this Wolves Wednesday for better or worse. So,
Wolves have certainly been a focus, especially having the draft pick you guys did have.
Yeah, and of course that draft pick is like just standing in the corner. This is our biggest fear is like, well, what if he's Andrew Wiggins? No, he's not going to be Wiggins. In like the first 2 preseason games, he's standing in the corner and he's missing long shots. So I guess my first question to you is, how would you, from where you sit, how would you sum up the current state of the Timberwolves relative to a loaded Western Conference headed into this upcoming season? And let's say headed into like this 3-year window.
Relative to the West this year, I don't feel great about Minnesota's chances of making even the play-in tournament. The league is so loaded right now, especially in the West, that this feels like a transition year for me, with Minnesota, where, Anthony Edwards, you mentioned, he had his 4 for 14 performance the other night. He clanked some jumpers, had some, sloppy turnovers. I think there's going to be a lot of that during his rookie season. He's so raw. And I don't think the Timberwolves are quite ready yet to be a playoff team in the West. So to me, it's about getting Edwards developed and adapting to the NBA, the speed of the game, the physicality of the game. To me, it's more about the next 2-3 years. And when you have a guy like Cat, as great as he is, it's still not hard to feel good about what Minnesota can be solely because of him.
What's the right now national perception of Cat? Because, with what he's gone through with his mom and his family and all of that, I think that there's a lot of empathy here locally. But as he now gets to a point in his career where he definitely should be getting teams to the playoffs, what's the national perception of this guy?
Yeah, I think with everything he went through this year with his family, it's awful. It's awful what he went through and what they're still going through. It's, loss is something that doesn't go away. But for him purely as a basketball player, the offense, I feel like, is a little bit underrated nationally because he is so special. Like, it's not often you can see guys that big that are able to hit step back 3-pointers off the dribble, that are able to hit. But look, fact is he's one of the best shooters in the league, period. Not just one of the best shooters as a big. He's one of the best shooters, period, of all players. And with a guy like that who can finish at the rim the way he can, who can do stuff off the dribble, attacking the basket the way he can, the only question, and like it goes without saying for any Minnesota fan, is the defensive aspect. What level can he reach on that end? And until he becomes somebody that is at all resembling the player everybody thought the NBA was getting coming out of his freshman year at Kentucky, Minnesota's not going to be the team that they can be because they're not getting that from other places on the roster. There's not another rim protector. There's not an elite wing defender. D'Angelo Russell is a sieve at the guard spot. So it's like it's got to be made up somewhere else, or Cat's got to do it himself.
So the hope here is that Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell with Ryan Saunders as the coach can take what we felt like 25 years ago should have been something special with Flip Saunders and Kevin Garnett and Stephon Marbury. Right now, it just feels like a diet version of that in almost every way. I think D'Lo and Steph are probably the most comparable, and that they're both like offensive-minded, shoot-first guards that just don't really give a rip about defense. KG compared to Cat, everything from just the alpha personality and the defensive tenaciousness. Cat's a more efficient scorer and a better shooter, and then the jury's still out on Ryan as a coach. But the Wolves are essentially banking on that trio, and then whatever Anthony Edwards can become. Do you see a path forward, a path to being, let's say, a top 5 team in the Western Conference with that nucleus, or are they going to have to spin off several other moves in your mind?
Theoretically, I can see it because of what Cat already is and what he can be with better defense, because of what Anthony Edwards is with his size and his strength. I mean, just like he looks like, an NFL tight end on the basketball court. And with him, so much of it is going to be skill development. And I don't love the situation for him in Minnesota personally. I think, there was that interview prior to the draft that he did with ESPN where Tom Crean, in that story, everybody was talking about the quote where he said, he doesn't love basketball, football is his number one love, blah, blah, blah. But the quote that stuck out to me in that story was from Tom Crean, his college head coach, who's like, in the NBA, he's going to have to kind of have his handheld, have somebody who can help him along and learn how to be a professional. To me, with Minnesota, like, I'm not sure where that, veteran, like, there's not that KG. There's not that KG there for him. And I do worry about that, but like, there's still no denying his talent. To me, I wonder with Minnesota, do they become a team? Like, let's say they underwhelm this year with D'Lo and Cat and Edwards. Do they become a team that like suddenly is like, oh, geez, we got to make a big, big move? Are they a team that could like flip D'Lo and more for like a Harden, a star that's available? Because they
for Jimmy Butler, let's try it again.
Yeah, let's run it back and have an alpha. Where's your alpha, right? It's unbelievable. But here, to your point, and this to me is where it's going to get intriguing, is if and when, and it sounds like it's going to take place, this team is sold. I think you're exactly right, because I think the new person that comes in and buys this team is going to say, you've been bad for how long? I've spent how much, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, let's hold Cat's hand. No, let's hold this guy's hand. No, let's do that. So I think that when this team is sold, that you're right. I think the pressure is going to become really, really high, because the person that pays how much is not going to come in and simply just sit back and be like, oh, that's fine. We've been terrible for 25 years.
Yeah,
so that's a really good point.
Yeah, there'll be pressure for sure. And like, that's why, like with James Harden, I mean, I brought him up. I know it'd be sort of echo what happened with Butler and that didn't work out. But ultimately, I think with Harden, I've been looking, what is the team that's going to pop up out of nowhere? What's the team? Because everybody's talking about Brooklyn. Everybody's talking about.
I think the Ravens are working out left guards, so maybe they come out of.
I mean, would you guys feel good about a Harden, or would that feel like another mistake? I mean, was Butler, a definitive mistake? Because that team was good. That team was good.
I'm so glad you brought up the Harden thing.
Reckless speculation.
We do reckless speculation Thursdays on this show, and we literally devoted a 30-minute segment. We didn't know how long. We just said, what about this thing that John Hollinger threw out in The Athletic of like, under the radar potential destinations? The Timberwolves actually do have the pieces if they wanted to make a trade, like financially. I mean, it depends on what the Rockets think about first round picks and Anthony Edwards and D'Lo, but I think the Butler thing on paper was perfect, and we celebrated it when it happened. And we did kind of think, all right, are they trying to peak too early in a Warriors dynasty, and then they're going to flame out? And the answer was yes, that all happened. But on paper, Jimmy Butler as the leader, as the alpha, putting his arm around the young guys and getting them to come into sort of his way of playing, that was what we thought was going to happen on paper, and it didn't. It all blew up, and Tom Thibodeau was the worst possible mediator. You needed a coach that could come in and say, guys, like you're a generational talent and you're a generational motor. Let's make this work together. And Tom Thibodeau just stood by Jimmy Butler and he was like, yeah, those guys are sissies. They don't play any defense. Let's dump on them on every practice. And so, like, I think Cat is a 2. I don't think Cat's going to be the leader of a team that is like second in the Western Conference, but who's the one and how do you get there? That's the question.
Yeah, and it's the type of thing where like you're on the clock here. Cat's contract, he still has a number of years left, but that time runs out quickly. And you got to find those guys that can help keep him happy and help, want to keep him in Minnesota because of the level of player that he is. Because if he is your 2 in terms of like the leadership hierarchy on the team, maybe he's your number 1 offensive option. But if he's number 2 in terms of like importance to the team, that's a really strong number 2 to have. Like, I feel like Cat nationally is underrated because Minnesota hasn't been that team, because when they were good with Butler, he was the one people looked at and said, oh, he's the problem, even though he's not. There's problems that he has and needs to get better at. But sometimes I feel like there's so much focus on what he doesn't do at an elite level rather than the stuff that he does at a very special, unusual level compared to even bigs in today's modern NBA. Like I said earlier, he's not just a great shooter as a big. He's one of the best shooters in the league, period. One of the most talented offensive players that we have in the league. And for Minnesota, they got to find the right mix. And I think the logic of D'Lo to run pick and roll with Cat, the logic of Edwards to have a versatile wing defender who can also generate buckets for you on offense, it all makes sense. It all makes sense. Malik Beasley makes sense. The guys they have on this roster, Culver, they make sense. It's just a matter of when do those guys develop to the point that in a loaded conference, Minnesota can actually be a postseason team. And I keep coming back. Cat needs to be that anchor. They got to defend.
Yeah. The first 2 games, though, it didn't make sense. It was difficult to watch. I think the starting point is this, personally, for me, effort. Like the first 2 games, they were so, and I get that they hadn't played in a long time. I get the Cat's been through a ton. But if you're not really going to go out there and try, something has to change quickly. And so I'm very curious to see, just from that point, if we're going to see a consistent effort, which then could possibly lead to good things. But I know they don't count, but those 2 games against the Grizzlies were as atrocious as you can possibly get. And the one on Monday was an absolute mail-in job.
Yeah, and it's the type of thing where you in preseason, I know people say, preseason doesn't matter, don't overreact. But I think preseason does matter to see how does a system change, what is a coach installing, how is the team effort, and that's, what you're seeing with Minnesota, those 2 games against Memphis. It's geez, they're already not trying and it's preseason?
That's what I said. I said the same thing.
Yeah, I don't Minnesota's a team that I'm okay, they'll be in the play-in tournament conversation because this year, of course, you get the 7 and 8 seed that are going to face the 9 and 10 seeds in both conferences. So which gives more teams more reasons to be competitive, more fans, more interest throughout the season. But I'm is Minnesota even going to be in that when you consider that one of New Orleans or Memphis or Portland or even Golden State, because I don't have Clay, could fall out and not even get the 10 seed. That's how deep the West is. And I'm not sure Minnesota is quite there yet. To me, this is a transition year, and it's disappointing. It's disappointing because there's a lot of talent on the team. They're a playoff team in the East.
That we've been petitioning for that for years.
Milwaukee, Chicago, the Wolves. Think about that division.
I agree. That'd be great.
Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer. You can follow him, Kevin O'Connor NBA. Hey, real quick, are you doing anything right now at dunkoncancer.com?
Not right now. I mean, after my dad was diagnosed last year in 2019, we did a whole fundraiser, raised $75,000 for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston. And I think, post-pandemic, I'd like to try to do, some type of annual live podcast show or something like that, because we did that in Toronto last year during the finals and it was awesome. So I'd love to be able to do that again and carry it on once we're past the pandemic.
We're all part of similar clubs here on this show, and so if you ever fire something up and you want to promote it, we're here to help you. So
awesome.
Just let us know.
Thank you guys. It's a bad club to be part of, but ultimately, it's great to be able to connect with people.
Amen.
Exactly.
All right, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Appreciate it, dude.
Thank you, guys.
Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer on Wolves Wednesday here, Mackey and Judd. We haven't gotten to your preseason game notes from the other day. I mean, this might be an opportunity for you to.
Oh, you know what?
How about Judd's keys to a Wolves preseason?
No, here's the problem, and I'm not joking. I watched the entire Gopher basketball game last night. I can't remember the ineptitude I saw on Monday because the ineptitude I saw on Tuesday was I am in, if there is such a thing, basketball hell right now.
No, there is such a thing. I think we've largely.
But I mean, what am I doing? I tweeted this out. What am I doing? Okay. I literally, because it's all that's on, which I appreciate. Okay. Just to be clear, I'm glad sports are being played. All right. So I'm not complaining about that. But Phil, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch all of these games start to finish. And it's awful.
I'm so glad that FSN and Sinclair haven't figured out a deal with YouTube TV.
Can you get ESPN2 disconnected from my service?
I did watch that. I watched the first half.
Oh
so
my
I was
God.
I was all excited early, like, oh my God, this is great. You got great guard play, and Mashburn's hitting shots from the top of the key, and
good start.
They're up by like 8, and then it's like, okay, the wheels are coming up, but then they sort of fought back a little, even like late in the first half. I don't understand how you're down by 35 points to anybody if you're the Gophers. And I get that Illinois has a couple of the best players in college basketball, and they're a legitimate top of the conference team. But like, you can't be down by 30 points. I'm sorry. What are we doing here? Why are you down by 30 points in that game? And so I turned it off and watched The Bachelorette.
Oh, I watched it got worse. It was
seriously. I know Tasha is really having a hard time deciding between these 4 guys.
Dan Dockich destroyed Booth. I don't think I've ever heard a amateur athlete destroyed as bad as Dockich did.
What did he say?
He basically said Booth Gotch, his game last night was a fraud. He didn't show up. He didn't come to play, or he came to play. He didn't come to compete. 0 for 9 from the field with 1 point. And Marcus Carr, he tried 3 of 13.
How are you like
Phil? They shot 27.
Over?
They shot 19 of 69, 27.5%.
It is. And then, by the way, Gabe Kalsher is like, he's just been like, for 2 years, he's been unable to make a shot. Apparently, he just forgot how to shoot.
He's Dan Bailey.
It's super weird.
He's Dan Bailey on 3-point shots.
It's super weird.
It's like,
and imagine, I don't know who's to blame or what. I don't know if it's a Patino thing. I mean, Patino always, when people would ask him about the bad free throw shooting on the team, he'd always be like, I know you guys always ask, like, do we practice free throw? Yes, we practice free throw.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know for shooting woes. I don't know, but it doesn't. That guy was such a sniper his freshman year, Gabe Kalsher.
Mm-hmm.
And then you fast forward to these, and you expected, oh man, you're going to get like a 4-year Blake Hoffarber sniper shooter here, and this is going to be awesome. It's like, he can't shoot. He's not big enough to score inside. So he just kind of plays some defense.
And he keeps trying to shoot, and his shot looks like it should go, and it doesn't go.
Yeah.
It's the